Perhaps this proverb accurately describes politicians, people who always seem to have something to say and yet excel at saying absolutely nothing.
I say now is the time to roll up our shirt sleeves and get to the bottom of this. The only way we're going to defeat this thing is if we all do it together.
Whenever the issue of term limits comes up, I always tell people the only term limits I'm interested in would be to limit some of the terms used by politicians. They speak, of course, with great caution because they must take care not to actually say anything.
I hope I have your vote on election day.
And why exactly should I vote for you?
Well, because I'm a hard worker, I take a stand.
On what exactly?
The issues of the day.
Which are?
The things that concern you and your family the most.
Why does your standard politician often say the equivalent of nothing? Hopefully, nothing happens. Nobody quotes it or even remembers it, nobody questions it, and nobody disagrees with it. A politician can't be disagreeable. They need to be as popular as they can, naturally, because they need as many votes as they can. But because we live in a world where we unanimously agree on absolutely nothing, it's impossible to make a concrete political statement without alienating people. This is the paradox that politicians wrestle with, and it's one of the reasons why they avoid making concrete statements at any chance they get, electing instead to make statements that are so vapid they cannot be argued against. Statements that you will want to agree with. Statements like,
America!
Yes! But he didn't say anything!
Then one day, on June 16th, 2015, somebody announced their bid for President of the United States who was not a politician.
So, I've watched the politicians. I've dealt with them all my life. If you can't make a good deal with a politician, then there's something wrong with you. You're certainly not very good. And that's what we have representing us. They will never make America great again. They don't even have a chance.
After generations of politicians behaving agreeably, along comes Donald Trump, a man who never seemed to care whether he was agreeable or not, and more often than not, he was not. He was brash. He was irreverent. He didn't possess a politician's filter. He didn't seem to possess a filter of any brand whatsoever. As a consequence of his behavior, unlike the typical politician where nothing happens when they speak, nothing is not what happened when Donald Trump would speak. The opposite happened. A lot happened. A lot of people quoted it, a lot of people remembered it, a lot of people questioned it, and a lot of people disagreed with it. This man seemed to break every unwritten rule for being a politician, and yet there is Plato's proverb.
We need somebody that literally will take this country and make it great again. We can do that.
But he didn't say anything!
To appreciate why this is worth pointing out in the first place, you have to start with two things which we all make: statements and judgments. A person makes a statement, and you can either agree or disagree with it. Simple, right? Well, in theory, yes, but in practice, a statement can be poorly worded, misinterpreted, misleading, inflammatory, ambiguous, or empty. If not entirely meaningless, then entirely lacking in information. Consider the following statement as an example. It is. Now, is it possible to agree or disagree with this statement? No, it's not. This statement contains zero information. Hence, there's nothing to argue about. Yes, this does seem rather obvious, but unfortunately, for whatever stupid reason, we human beings are so determined to make a judgment about everything we hear that we do so even when it isn't clear what's being judged. And this makes for the worst types of arguments. Arguing over a statement without information is like running a race without a finish line. There is no winner, there is no end, there is no point. None of this is lost on politicians, by the way. They understand this perhaps better than anyone else. They understand that people love to agree or disagree even when there's nothing to agree or disagree with, and they understand that if they bungle even one statement, just one, it could open up a can of, strike that, a silo of worms. Yuck. It's no wonder why politicians are so cautious, and why they act so wonky, too.
Ha, 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 ha.
But they get the last laugh, you see. If people aren't going to be rational, if we're going to have opinions about empty statements, why wouldn't a politician use that to their advantage? If they can win our support without saying anything, that's a win-win. They just have to be agreeable.
Oh, I like him. He looks me in the eye.
Just say things that people won't want to disagree with.
I don't understand these people. He didn't even say anything and they're eating it up.
Hope, change, yes we can, country first, forward, believe in America, stronger together, reformer with results, people first, kinder, gentler nation, let's make America great again. He does things. He does things. You're not anti-things, are you? Every single one of these statements effectively mean whatever you want them to mean. You're supposed to project whatever you already like and already agree with onto them.
You and I know that America deserves better.
And if you think that's shallow, if you think this is all vapid and condescending, you're right. It is. See, now it means something. It is condescending. It is an insult to our intelligence, but that's just the way that politicians are, and nothing's ever going to change that. Then Donald Trump showed up.
This is a tough business to run for president.
I know, you're a tough guy, Jeb.
And we need to have a leader that is
real tough.
You're never going to be president of the United States
tough,
by insulting your way to the presidency.
Let's see, I'm at 42 and you're at 3, so far I'm doing better.
Doesn't matter.
So far I'm doing better. You know, you started off over here, Jeb. You're moving over further and further. Pretty soon you're going to be off the end.
This doesn't do a thing to solve the problem.
One at a time.
It sounds more.
And something fascinating happened. Because Donald Trump was so disagreeable to so many people, because he displayed anger and was generally negative, it gave the impression that he was actually saying something, even when he really wasn't. As an example, the American dream. If your standard politician says something like, "The American dream is alive and well," or something like that, what does Donald Trump say about the American dream?
Sadly, the American dream is dead.
Now, before you agree with one of these statements and disagree with the other, just understand that the American dream is just an ethos. It represents different things to different people with different opinions and different priorities. Whether it's dead or alive, sick or healthy, having a beer or falling down a flight of stairs is neither here nor there. So even though Donald Trump's statement was a surprisingly negative one, as opposed to the typically positive one, it's still an empty statement fit for you to project whatever you already agree with onto, and there's nothing about it worth arguing over.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're not sending you. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us. They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
This statement upset a lot of people. It sounded like Donald Trump was implying that Mexicans who are rapists and drug dealers are the rule, while Mexicans who are good are the exception, which is undoubtedly due to his choice of the best words, stating simply that they are rapists while saying some are good people, seeming certain about one while only assuming the other. But if you ignore all of that and take the statement at face value, what's missing here? Information. This statement contains zero information. If a majority of Mexicans crossing the Mexican border are indeed rapists and drug dealers, then they are the rule and the good people are the exception. If, however, a majority have committed no crime, after they cross the border illegally, and indeed are good people who want their children to be American citizens, who want to pay taxes and sing the Star-Spangled Banner in English, then the rapists and the drug dealers are the exception. But without any data, all Donald Trump said here was that Mexicans who are rapists exist. Well, that's just stating the obvious. Every population contains bad apples. Americans are rapists. Catholics are rapists. Short people are rapists too. I mean, heck, there are literally millions of equivalents. Cars are crashing. Toilets are clogged. Music sucks. Skittles are purple. All of which are general statements that need a figure on the front end for them to either be correct or incorrect. Because Donald Trump didn't do that, he was neither correct nor incorrect. And the same goes for anyone who claimed to agree or disagree with him. Because those who disagreed could say, no, they aren't. Those who agreed could say, yes, they are.
But he didn't say anything!
Why is it so difficult to not judge a statement when nothing was actually said? Well, one reason is because the person in question came so close to actually saying something. But that's just one reason. Another reason why is because of prejudgment, or shall we just say prejudice. If you already have an opinion and then somebody makes an ambiguous statement, you can interpret that statement to confirm the opinion that you already had. Here's an example. Person A and person B ask person C, are you going to the beach this summer? Person A is pro-beach, person B is anti-beach, and they both think that person C agrees with them. Unfortunately, person C never answers the question. They simply say, wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice can be interpreted to mean either yes or no. This is where prejudice takes over. If person A wanted to hear yes and person B wanted to hear no, God be with them if they argue over this. Because the statement they're debating was left up to interpretation, neither person is right and neither person is wrong. That's what happens when you argue over an interpretation. Whatever you think somebody meant, whoever that somebody is should have made themselves clear when they initially spoke.
You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
No, it wasn't. Your Twitter account...
What is it with you and Megyn Kelly?
Well, I just don't respect her as a journalist. I have no respect for her. I don't think she's very good. I think she's highly overrated. She gets out and she starts asking me all sorts of ridiculous questions. And, you know, you could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever. You know, you could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever.
This statement upset a lot of people. It seemed like wherever was a euphemism for vagina. In other words, Megyn Kelly must have been menstruating, and it's no wonder then that she couldn't do her job properly. If you were already of the opinion that Donald Trump didn't respect women, then you know what he meant. This is what he meant. Obviously. But what if someone else interprets it differently? Are they wrong? Are you wrong? No, neither one of you is wrong. Neither one of you is right. This is not worth arguing over. Oh, sure, you can still argue over whatever, wherever means anyway, if you insist.
But he didn't say anything!
Consider the Necker cube. You've probably seen this before. It is, after all, a simple three-dimensional shape. Or is it? It's actually an optical illusion. Some would say that the front face of this cube is down here and that we're viewing it from above, while others would say that the front face is really up there and that we're viewing it from below. But the fact of the matter is, this illustration does not give us enough information, enough visual cues to say for sure. That's what makes it an optical illusion. What you see is what you want to see. You might not look at a sentence in the same way that you look at the Necker cube, but you should. And not just because politicians are vague on purpose, but because of how often the rest of us are vague by accident. In April of 2016, Entertainment Weekly published an interview with actress Maisie Williams. In it, Williams offered her opinion on the topic of feminism, and her opinion was that we should stop calling feminists and just start calling people who aren't feminists sexists, and then everyone else is just a human. You're either a normal person or a sexist. Seems pretty straightforward and to the point, yes? No, it's not. Take another look at these sentences. Whatever Maisie Williams is arguing here is left up to your own personal understanding of feminism. If your understanding of feminism is that it's nothing more than the belief that women deserve just as much dignity as men, and you agree, then Williams is simply arguing that we don't need a label for that. But if you think that feminism is a philosophical shopping cart jammed packed with lots of wacky theories and radical manifestos and a bunch of other junk social science that you do not agree with, well, then apparently you're not normal. You're not a human. You're a bad person for having even one disagreement with feminism. So says some 18-year-old actress. Well, la-di-da, what does she know? Who the hell does she think she is? You see how easy it is to bungle a statement? You see how hard it is to reserve a judgment? It's kind of funny when you think about it. It's always the short statements, the ones with fewer and smaller words that sound the most straightforward to us, that sound the most to the point and crystal clear. But ironically, we've got the whole thing ass backwards. The fewer words you use and the smaller they are, the less clear you are. You're not being straightforward. You're not getting to the point. You're not giving us enough cues to comprehend what you're saying.
You know, it's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
We want to remind the audience to please not talk out loud. Please do not applaud. You're just wasting time.
After getting a subpoena to give over your emails and lots of other things, she deleted the emails. She has to go to jail.
And there you heard it right there, Brianna. Of course, when Donald Trump was talking about this sort of thing at the debate on Sunday night, his advisors came out afterward and said he was just kidding. It was just a quip. He can't do that. He can't put Hillary Clinton in jail. As a matter of fact, Kellyanne Conway, the campaign manager for Donald Trump, called it a quip, but it did not sound like he was joking here at all.
Didn't he just say that he would throw his opponent in jail as president of the United States? Or did he leave this one up for interpretation as well? Let's start with Hillary Clinton, who seemed to state that the president is in charge of the law. What does that mean? What does it mean to be in charge of the law? To enforce laws? To create laws? To interpret laws? To blow off laws? Just for the record, since Hillary Clinton's statement was vapid and backhanded, does that mean Donald Trump's response was backhanded as well? What does his statement mean? Was it a threat that he will imprison her at all costs? If he didn't make himself clear during the debate, he must have made himself clear during his rally. But once again, he didn't actually say that he would exercise his authority, for which he wouldn't have, to imprison his political opponent. What he actually said was that X has to happen, and that can be interpreted as well. One way to interpret X has to happen is that they will personally do X themselves. Another interpretation would simply be that they wish for X to happen. You have to quit drinking could be taken as an ultimatum or a plea. We have to clean up could be taken as a demand or a suggestion. My life has to change, you get the idea. Words like have and has do not provide us with enough information, but understandably, when somebody running for president of the United States says something like this, we have to have an opinion. We have to feel certain that we know what was said. And so, if one person hears, "I'll throw my opponent in prison if I want," which is tyrannical and kind of frightening, and another person hears, "My opponent ought to be in prison if they broke the law," which is a plain appeal to the justice system, then we have yet another argument that can never end. And again, it doesn't matter how certain you or anyone else is of what Donald Trump meant to say. If somebody else, if anybody else, interprets his statement differently than you do, there is no basis for changing their mind. Hence, it is not worth arguing over. And yet, we argue over this crap constantly, all the time, endlessly, hopelessly. Do you think Donald Trump was aware the entire time that people like to jump to judgments without information? We know that ordinary politicians are aware of this. We know that ordinary politicians take advantage of us when they make empty statements, only they do it to avoid controversy. When Donald Trump made empty statements, he caused controversy. If this was all done on purpose, it worked brilliantly, and it would seem to explain a lot. It would help explain how a single statement could convince those who loved Trump and those who hated persuaded Trump that their opinion of him was correct. It would help explain why his supporters and his detractors were so galvanized and thought that the other side was biased and gullible. It might even help to explain President Trump's choice of words during this interview on his 100th day in office. Take note of each sentence that begins with the word "you."
Did President Obama give you any advice that was helpful? That you think, wow, he
well,
really
he was very nice to me, but after that, we've had some difficulties. So it doesn't matter. You know, words are less important to me than deeds. And you saw what happened with surveillance, and everybody saw what happened with surveillance.
Difficulties how?
I thought that, well, you saw what happened with surveillance, and I think that was inappropriate.
What does that mean, sir?
You can figure that out yourself.
Well, the reason I asked is you said you called him sick and bad.
Look, you can figure it out yourself. He was very nice to me with words, and when I was with him, but after that, there has been no relationship.
But you stand by that claim about him?
I don't stand by anything. I just, you can take it the way you want. I think our side's been proven very strongly, and everybody's talking about it.
And frankly, it should be discussed. I think that is a very big surveillance of our citizens. I think it's a very big topic, and it's a topic that should be number one, and we should find out
what the hell is going on.
I just wanted to find out, though, you're the president of the United States. You said he was sick and bad because he had tapped you.
You can take it any way you want.
But I'm asking you, because you don't want it to be fake news. I want to hear it from President Trump.
You don't have to ask me.
Why not?
Because I have my own opinions. You can have your own opinions.
But I want to know your opinions. You're the President of the United States.
It's enough. Thank you. Thank you very much.
If somebody really wanted to make sure that they were understood, this doesn't seem like the right way to do that. This seems like the linguistic equivalent of an optical illusion. Does this mean that Donald Trump deliberately took advantage of the voters, the media, the English language, and successfully bamboozled his way into the White House? Well, you saw what happened. You figure it out. You can have whatever opinion of Donald Trump you want, because this really isn't about Donald Trump. It's about us. All of us, the citizens. We ought to feel a sense of responsibility when we speak to make ourselves understood. And if somebody fails to do so, then we should feel a responsibility to not interpret it, to not judge it, and to not argue over it. Arguing over a statement without information is as good as arguing over nothing. So the next time you hear somebody make an empty statement and everyone around you judges it, either say nothing or say this.
But he didn't say anything!
I'm really looking forward to hearing your opinions.
I don't know if I can handle a debate, Dr. Crane. I'm not very good at rendering my opinion.
Nothing to worry about, Woody. Just tell some more of those farm stories. People seem to love those. If that doesn't work, just say the word change about 100 times. Come on, let's go to my place and work on it. Trust me, Woody. With my brains and your smile, who knows how high we can go. Congressman, senator. Who knows?
Change has come to America.